Performance rankings with Gillette.
I'm scratching my head. Our performances was just lacked that intensity.
Let's make Nathan Murphy's face even smugger this morning. We'll start in the green, just to get Mayo in there. I think we're doing Mayo, aren't we? Let's do it anyway, regardless. One of the stats that popped up on screen during the first half that took my interest was own kickouts 1, Galway 3 out of 3, Mayo 2 out of 10. And by the end of it, I mean, it didn't matter.
We've opened the kimono accidentally there a little bit. It said Cork and Meath, but we've deleted them.
Meath.
We've deleted them, yeah.
So congratulations to Meath, of course, in their Talton Cup semi-final win over Antrim. But down. I mean, it goes
down.
in Croke Park.
Yeah, I mean that is ridiculous.
It's not bad, and that's going to be a mouth-watering final down in Meath.
So it's Mayo and Cork. That's what we're doing, right?
Yes, we're doing Mayo and Cork. So look, just to keep Nathan happy, Nathan started crying in the pre-show production meeting, and insisted that we start with Mayo.
Well, I think Mayo deserved to be in there, regardless of their own performance. Galway were many people's favourites for the All-Ireland, and Mayo have just gone and beaten them. Like, it is peak Mayo that they would beat Kerry and Galway,
and still not win All-Ireland,
and probably still find themselves drawn against Dublin in an hour's time in an All-Ireland quarter final.
So we can basically work out the draw, can we?
No, there's a lot of what can't happen.
Yeah,
like Kerry can only get
Monaghan or Tyrone. Mayo can't get Kerry, but they can get one of the other three.
One of my Dub supporting mates was like, "Oh yeah, hopefully we'll get Cork and it'll be on in Páirc Uí Chaoimh." Is that a possibility?
No, they're all going to be on in Croke Park.
That's
two
what
double
they said.
headers.
But what if they change their minds? New information came to light.
I don't think new information comes to light with quarterfinals. Double header in Croke Park. It looks like Mayo are going to be playing on Sunday, so they get the full 7-day break, considering all the other preliminary quarterfinals were on Saturday.
Well, Dublin will be Saturday night, won't they? They always are. They'll be the second of that Saturday night.
It depends on what the draw is. If it's Mayo Dublin, it might have to be Sunday.
There is an All-Ireland semi-final on a Saturday evening, and a semi-final on a Sunday. That Saturday evening in Dublin could be a good night.
Yeah. I mean, the ties, it's going to be 4 outrageously good ties regardless, isn't it?
Well, you could end up with a lopsided draw where you could end up with
Monaghan, Cork,
Kerry against Tyrone, Dublin against Mayo.
On one side. Can you? Are Kerry and Dublin not separated?
Well, I think it all depends then on the results of the quarterfinals.
Yeah, like
they seem quite non-committal as to what will happen the whole way through.
There definitely is like a bit of wiggle room for the draw makers in what might happen next.
You're enough of what might happen next. How's about you get talking about what just happened?
Okay, yeah, Mayo. What happened? How did they suddenly come from being dead and buried, from wetting the bed against Cork the way they did? A swoon. It was the opposite this time.
Ciallain O'Connor coming off the bench, scoring that inspirational point.
It was such a strange game. It was such a Pearse Stadium, Salt Hill match where the wind was the dominating factor. It was how much of a lead could Galway build up by half time, and 5 points didn't feel like enough. It should have been far more, albeit Mayo started really well, got 3 points on the board, but Mayo went up against a Galway side who had their outstanding player in Shane Walsh just totally off form. Was it 4 wides he kicked in the first half in a row at a time where Galway were really trying to stretch that lead? And it's a totally different game if Galway are going in at the break 9 points up to 5 points up in terms of the psychology for Mayo, thinking we're going to have to go out here and somehow rack up a big score in the second half, and Galway can sit back ultra defensively if they want. They also went up against a Galway side who 2 of their best players in Sean Kelly and Damien Comer just weren't fit. Kelly, the ankle, from minute 1 you were looking at him going, oof, he's not fully at it today. Comer goes off at half time. So I think when you look from a Galway point of view, and the expectation that was on them this year, and Port Choice was very honest afterwards as to how disappointing a season it has ended up being, you need your best players on the pitch and you need them playing well, and they didn't have that.
Their injury profile has been really unfortunate. I still think we hadn't seen them beat a really top tier team in the championship outside of Connacht, and I keep making the point that I think these competitions, you have to take them each on their own individual merits, and I don't know, so in a way that's why it's suited Monaghan to be in the league scenario that they've been in. I think the difference between Monaghan and Kildare was a decade of Division 1 football, and also Monaghan's propensity for winning in the 75th and 76th minute. Conor McKeown's great piece today, where he's just reflecting on the post-match comments, but pointing out that Monaghan have done that week in, week out. And I think from Mayo's perspective, they have more of their best players fit and in form at the moment than Galway do, and there's no difference between a lot of these sides. I don't think Mayo are capable of winning the All-Ireland from here.
No,
I don't at the moment.
Doesn't feel like it, but
Now, Croker, who knows? Maybe Croker is actually what they've been waiting for all year.
as I said last week when the draw was made, Mayo are doing what they did during the Rochford era, which was mirroring what the opposition bring to them and the level of intensity. And it was the same yesterday when Galway upped it. Mayo were able to up it as well. I think there's a lot of positives there still from a Mayo point of view, in that the players that Kevin McStay brought in yesterday all performed. Now, you could throw it back and go, does he know what his best 15 is right now? Maybe he doesn't, and we probably feel, because it's Kevin McStay, Stephen Rochford, Lee McHale, that this isn't a first year management team and it would be perfectly normal for them not to know what their best 15 is right now. You feel they should be further along the track than that. But
they did seem to certainly post match, he's very honest with Tommy, where he's like, I have different plan depending on playing against the wind, playing for the wind, playing with the breeze. And Hora got sick overnight, couldn't travel with the team, and so the building of the depth was the thing to give them the opportunity to have different game plans and different personnel on the pitch. So I don't think there is a best team anymore, is there?
no, you wouldn't be surprised to see Matty Ryan come in, depending on who the opposition is, in an All-Ireland quarter-final. Like, the big boost is, you look at Dave McBreen's goal and his performance yesterday. Full-back has been a bit of a struggle for Mayo over the last few years. To have a young player come in and make that sort of impression, and the confidence boost he should take from scoring a goal of that quality in a game of that importance, is absolutely massive. So when Mayo got to the All-Ireland final against Tyrone, I don't think anyone thought they had enough to probably even get to an All-Ireland final. A lot will depend on the draw.
Was the team that got to Tyrone not like, were they not favourites for that final?
They probably were, just because it was Tyrone. I think at the start of the year there wasn't a... So yeah, when you look at what Kerry and Dublin have right now, it's probably hard to make a case. But that's the magic of this Mayo team.
They could best the rest, and
as you said, they know how to win these big games. Like, they have done it consistently, much like the fact that Monaghan year after year have these tough games against similar opposition in Ulster and can grind it out.
So they can get the dubs.
Yeah,
they can get the dubs. They can get Armagh
or
they can get Derry.
All right. Who do you want? Do you want the Dubs in the quarter final?
No, don't be trying to lead me down this now, where you're climbing it up going, I want the Dubs. We took them in the semi-final back, and we'd take them again.
Well, that's what you had it very close to the tip of your tongue there, Nathan. And practicing the lines. Come on.
Each one brings its own unique challenge.
You want Armagh.
You're not a manager. Come on.
I think you would like to avoid Dublin for as long as possible, wouldn't you?
Yeah. From a Monaghan perspective, if
are you going to beat them in the
Dublin,
final, or are you going to beat them in the quarter or semis? Is that not it?
Well, they beat them in the semi-final a couple of years ago, so
this is going to be the year
maybe
where
wait till then.
You beat Galway in a knockout game, you beat Kerry, you beat the Dubs, you beat somebody else, and then Tyrone beat you in the final again.
Yeah, Tyrone just coming through sneakily. Derek Hannon produces performance like his father and beats Mayo again in the All-Ireland final.
Well, Monaghan won their first All-Ireland.
All of these things are possible, but from where Mayo were last week after the defeat to Cork, to being able to turn it around in the second half, hairy enough at the end. I see a couple of people writing about it saying their game management was generally quite good. It felt until the last minute of injury time when a bit of panic set in, and Brian Reap made every single match they played this year, it feels like he's made a brilliant save, but almost got caught out when he came for that high ball in, and luckily it was Phil McDonough who was back covering on the line.
I think Conor Gleeson had kept 3 clean sheets in the last 3 games, so you're thinking that this is a game with wind, a goal is going to win it, and then when McBreen scores the goal, you're thinking, Galway need a goal. Reap makes the save from Tierney then in the second half late on as well, to stop that goal from going in. It was just one of those games that just, it felt like it could go either way, but yeah, I think the lead at half time wasn't significant enough for Galway to have done it. And then you say, as you say, the injuries, but you can talk about the injuries till the cows come home. Teams need to have strength and depth, and I think Galway, we were saying this year, did have strength and depth. And you look at the subs coming on yesterday, and they're all brilliant subs. like Tom O'Callaghan, Cal Sweeney, like
Finnerty.
Finnerty, the impact.
You can have as much straight and depth you want, but if your full back and your talisman up front, your two talismen aren't on it. Like, if you look, both Mayo and Galway had 16 shots from play. Mayo scored 10 points, Galway scored 7 points. You look at the quality of the points that Paddy Durkin kicked in the second half. Galway missed a few opportunities like that when they had the win, and that, in a 1 point game, is pretty much the difference.
Yeah. But the big thing was that they shouldn't have been playing this week if they'd kicked the penalty last week, and they even, so all of a sudden we now understand that every one of those games really matters, and you've got to do your business week in, week out, and that's why the Dubs and Derry and, to a certain extent, Armagh are kicking their heels this week, watching everybody else knock lumps out of each other, going, yeah, that's great, bring it on. So we shall see next week what the benefits of that were. Mayo win was a fluke, lads. We saw their level in the second half between Louth and Cork. Expect a big beating come the quarter-final, says Dave Cos, who I think may be trying to verbalise it, manifest it into existence.
The Louth game was won. Whatever about the Cork match, I think the Louth game, they're absolutely in control. It was a 5 points up heading into injury time, and they just switched off. Cork was more of a concern, but again, was there just a game management issue there?
Like James Horn was making the point with Tommy afterwards, that, look, teams won't really fear playing Mayo now, but I also think they're the team that in the draw this morning, the 4 already qualified quarterfinalists will want to avoid, like compared to Cork, Monaghan.
Absolutely. I think if you're one of the 4 winners, I think you're looking going, we want to avoid Mayo because of the madness and the unpredictability.
Yeah,
and this was Mayo at their absolute peak under Rochford in those 2 years when they pushed Dubs to the wire. You look at the years going through the qualifiers. Was it Cork 1 year? Like, again, they're pretty much beaten week on week on week in the qualifiers, and they'd somehow find a way to do it.
It's not the same team anymore, really.
No, it's not.
So you can't just take the spirit animal of the last decade and assume that this one is going to be the same. There's been enough turnover in personnel, and you'd hope that they've learned some of the game management things. We should talk about Cork and their renaissance. If you think back to the games that they lost, like the first game was against Meath in the league, where Meath scored all those goals, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a long year for Cork. And then the game against the Dubs, where it was the width of a post that stopped them from winning that, and then they went on a bit of a run, and obviously they were horrific in the Munster Championship, but their recovery from that point to this, again, I think it's it's a much better system now, where you get 3 games to learn the lessons and implement those. And the Mayo comeback obviously wasn't a fluke. Now, I don't know, I feel a lot of sympathy with Roscommon. It looked like they'd done everything right. It looked like they were going to use the lessons of the whole season to see out the game and win it. They get turned over, and then Cork, rapier like, straight down, twist of the knife over the bar, and that's the win in the game. And suddenly Roscommon are bereft. And we'll speak with Davy Burke later on in the week about the season they had, and I feel real sympathy for them, because I think they had a couple of all-stars in the making, and I don't know if you don't make it to the quarterfinals in Croke Park, can you still win an all-star? We shall see. Hopefully they get a nomination. But are Cork back? Is this like
I think if you beat two Division 1 teams 2 weeks in a row, you're back. Like, to beat Mayo and Roscommon now, and the manner in which they did it, because when, as you said, when Roscommon come back from 5 points down and equalise later on, the momentum is with them, massively so. Did maybe Roscommon's tactics come back to bite them a little bit in injury time? Like, Conor Daly throws the ball to himself, turned over. They're clear, like you could see the Roscommon selectors with the 3 fingers up, going 3 minutes left, basically saying keep the ball for 3 minutes, take your point in the last of those additional minutes, and it just didn't work. Like, maybe it would have worked if they'd managed to keep the ball and not have that little error from Conor Daly, but as you say, Kevin O'Donovan comes up the pitch and they take the point. So maybe Roscommon's tactics that they got criticised and crucified for against Dublin came back to bite them, but hindsight's 2020. If they hadn't made that small error, we wouldn't be talking about that. But Cork can take another scalp. Like, there's no doubt about it. If Cork get drawn against Dublin or Kerry again, that there's no reason why they can't win those games. Well, sorry, they can't get drawn against Kerry, of course. But I think they can take another big victory. Like, what John Cleary's done there has been amazing, and teams will again want to avoid them.
Yeah.
Are they back to winning in All Ireland? Not yet, but are they back being relevant, where actually
we have to analyse them, as opposed to
when we're talking about Cork-Kerry clashes over the next couple of years, we're not just talking about how many that they can put it up to the big guns again. So Roscommon's tactics, maybe it was a good thing that it comes back to bite you in the ass eventually. Maybe those tactics work against a team like Dublin where you got to do that. Actually, against Cork, do you just crack and kick on and win the game?
Maybe, I don't know. I think that's their new identity, and it nearly saw them through. And again, if they were one of those teams in Croke Park in quarter-final weekend, nobody want to see them, but they're gone, and that is the way the championship worked out for them. Okay, what's next?
Yeah, let's move on to the other green, and I suppose Clare deserve certainly a strong mention after their performance against Dublin at the weekend. We all expected it, but
it's Tony Kelly, right?
It's Tony Kelly's performance. Yeah, I mean, the hat-trick probably surprised nobody, given it's Tony Kelly, and he does Tony Kelly things week after week. But Clare look stronger than they did last year, and you'd expect they'll have learned from that semi-final last year, and certainly going into this Kilkenny game, possibly be favourites, would they?
No.
I think so. That's a good question. I think on performance level, you would say that Clare probably should be favourites, but the muscle memory that's there for Kilkenny would suggest that maybe not.
Possibly. It's the injury, isn't it, that you want to be concerned about, I guess. John Conlon with that head injury looked like a concussion possibly. Shane O'Donnell picked up a slight knock as well, and then you have Conor Cleary, Aidan McCarthy and David McInerney already on the sidelines. So I think from
2 weeks now though for them, so
of course, yeah, so maybe that'll dictate who's favourites as well. But yeah, it was concerning enough for Conlon. He was on the ground for 4 minutes, and of course missed last year's All-Ireland semi-final with injury as well. So yeah, the next fortnight's going to be fairly critical, I think, for Clare's chances against Kilkenny in that game.
You are correct.
Clare marginally
5-4 on Kilkenny, 5-4.
Okay. That will depend on the injuries as well, I think, for Clare.
Well, they had injuries going into that game on Saturday. Aidan McCarthy wasn't there. You do look at Clare and they have to feel we are the team that can beat Limerick. We have shown that we have the ability, that we can go toe to toe with them. They should have beaten them in the Munster final. Over the last 2 years, consistently, they've been right there. They didn't. I get that they didn't. But the quality that they have.
They did this season. In the Kilkenny Crowns.
In the round robin, sorry, but not in the Munster final. And they have different players stepping up in different games. So like Tony Kelly scores 3-4. Whether it's Shane O'Donnell, Peter Duggan, Dave Fitzgerald. It is the John Conlon thing, but you'd have to think mentally they should be in a better position, where it felt as though Conlon's injury last year totally derailed them in the semi-final, that there was too much in that.
I think there was something else going on there apart from that as well. So we look, I'm just trying to find Tony Kelly isn't even on the top 10 list of top scorers in the championship at the moment. I was wondering
he doesn't take the freeze anymore,
if he might be able to.
Aidan McCarthy takes the freeze, so
close the gap on Patrick Horgan or TJ Reid, but he won't be able to. It's too big. It's hundreds of points. Now he does have a long time to go. So at the start of the year he was 13th on the list, literally 200 points behind.
I was interested to listen to Brian Lohan after the game, because he was like, personnel wise we're better this year than last, and he also said we're not as washed out as we were last year. Like the Munster Championship didn't take as much out of Clare this year as perhaps in previous years. I mean, in the first 11 minutes they had 6 wides yesterday, and you're thinking, oh, this isn't great, but 5-26 ultimately, and I think we've got 2 tantalising semi-finals, probably the 2 pairings that we wanted.
Yeah, I don't think that we're putting Clare in the green here because Clare are going to be in an All-Ireland semi-final in rude health, as opposed to last year when it did look like they were a bit washed out, and they stuttered through this round. There was no stuttering yesterday. That 3-2 burst just before half time decided the game. Look, we're going to get on to Tipperary, so let's keep going.
Yep, into the Amber, and Irish golf in the Amber. Looked for large swathes of yesterday afternoon that we were going to have an Irish winner at the major. It was going to be Leona Maguire or Stephanie Meadow, and both of them, I remember reading comments from Stephanie Meadow before saying when she was 13 Leona was 10, and she first met her when Leona was still reading Harry Potter books. So like their friendship goes back so long. Curtis Cups together, of course, Olympics together, but yesterday afternoon I think Leona Maguire will be very disappointed. Her 74 left her tied for 11th ultimately. Stephanie Meadow shooting a 1/70 yesterday. That's her career best in a major, tying for 3rd. So kind of failing to fire in the final round. That was the KPMG Women's USPGA course in New Jersey. Ruoning Yin, the ultimate winner, coming from behind as well with an extraordinary final round from her at 8 under par, 1 shot ahead of Japan's Yuka Sasso and 2 ahead of the quintet of players at 6 under. That included Stephanie Meadow. I mean, I think Leona will be disappointed. I know her, she was talking ahead of the final round, saying she was in a different position leading into the final round, which was strange for her.
I think Leona will be disappointed, and Stephanie might be devastated with how it finished up. It was interesting watching their embrace, and I was trying to look at the body language as they were going down 18, and Leona Maguire was out of it by then, but Stephanie Meadow knew that if she eagled 18, which was going to be a massive task, it was a par 5 but reachable in 2, that she would force a playoff. And she's standing 247 yards from the green, middle of the fairway, 3-wood in hand, and has, I'm sure, what is the worst moment of her professional career, where she tops a 3-wood in the worst possible way.
The one that skips across the water.
Incredibly fortunate it doesn't bounce into the water, doesn't connect with it at all. And you knew from the look at her face, she knew that was it. Now, she hit a really good approach, misses the putt, ends up in a tie for third when she could have finished second, and all of that's very important for Stephanie Meadow, because it's been a bit of a struggle over the last couple of years, and you really hope that this ignites. But it was such a brilliant opportunity. Listen, I'm not saying she was going to eagle 18 anyways, but to not even give herself a chance to hit that shot at that moment is the type of thing that can haunt you for quite a while. So I really hope that she's able to take the positives from this week and kick on for the rest of the season. And next week the US Open is on at Pebble Beach, so there's an opportunity for them to bounce back. The body language is interesting. It didn't seem like there was much conversation between the two of them walking down 18, and then the hug at the end. Leona Maguire's face summed up exactly what she felt about this. Massive missed opportunity. Never got going at all yesterday. Just couldn't build any momentum. That entire grouping, Stephanie Meadow held in the best of the three of them, but Shin, Meadow and Maguire, there was nothing falling for them at all. And maybe there was a bit of fatigue for Leona. She won last week. There's obviously a big emotional high after that, and she keeps a flow going into Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But she just didn't seem to have anything there last night. But there's still a lot of positives. This is the first time she's properly contended at a major. She's had good major finishes. You might remember at the Evian in France last year, she had a couple of years ago, she had the lowest round ever in a major championship, but it was coming from miles back. Likewise in the Open, coming from well back to finish inside the top 10. This one, she's there in the final pairing over the final 2 days and hung around, but just didn't have that bit to kick on. But again, the US Open at Pebble Beach is next week, so if you're in that level of form, starting next week, not this weekend coming, but starting on Thursday weekend, that's going to be just a massive occasion. So I'm not surprised that was Leona Maguire's. I don't think she'd be looking at any positives. I go back to this time last year, interviewing her down at Adair Manor after a round at the JP McManus Pro-Am, where obviously it's a celebration, and she just came off the course, and it was like, obviously this is a great day. There was huge crowds following her around, all of that. Everyone was going in to have their fancy dinner, watch a bit of Westlife and all that. Not Leona, who was desperately disappointed with her round, couldn't hide it, was going to the putting green for an hour to try and fix things after the JP McManus Pro-Am, which sort of shows where her mindset is, even at things like that. So yeah, I think Amber is right. You would hope that Stephanie Meadow, this is her best performance in years. I think she finished third on her pro debut at the US Open in 2014, but this should at least seal her card and be able to relax her a little bit. She just got married recently, so off the course things seem to be in a good place as well for Stephanie Meadow, but that shot on 18 is one that I think
we'll live with her for a while.
Exactly.
She'll be living through it. Yeah, I guess Padraig Harrington we should mention as well, and that's why we have Golf and Amber, because for him last night was unbelievable. Trailed by 5 shots with 7 holes to play.
What tournament did he win?
This is the Dick's Sporting Goods Open, so he's defended his title. And sorry, but the back
like my 2 kids when they're in America, it's like, Dick's Sporting Goods, that's the greatest name I've ever seen. You've never lost it, Ger.
Oh, come on, you got to take it when
you got what?
Smoke 'em when you got him.
Oh God, I'll move on from that one, get that image out of my head. But final line 28 was just remarkable. Was it 5 birdies and an eagle, like towards the back end?
Yeah, it was ridiculous finish from Harrington, defending his title here. And again, the US Seniors Open is on this week. Harrington,
Wisconsin,
went all the way against Steve Stricker in the last major, won the US Open last year. You got to think
he's going to do it again.
Right there.
I keep pointing this out, but he's winning more in prize money now than he ever did in his best years, even the years when he was winning 2 majors in the same season. He actually won more in real terms, obviously not including inflation. I understand.
The taxes.
Boring economist out there. But
$315,000 for last night's win, and that takes him to over $1 million, I think, on the PGA Tour this year.
And it's barely got going.
It's not bad. And look, he was tied for 5th overnight heading into the final round, so he probably hadn't really considered the fact that he could probably win. But what a performance. 51 years of age, still flying at Porter Carrington. So Irish golf, deservedly.
Edward Freeman wants to ask, is Ryan O'Donoghue in the red for his cheap shot stamp that will surely get him a suspension for the weekend? There's no, you don't get suspended anymore. There has to be, you have to kill somebody to get suspended from this point of the tournament on.
Listen, as Sean Kavanagh said, it takes 2 to tango. Now, it did look as though maybe Sean Kelly was tangoing with somebody else at the time.
Sometimes, as Sean Kavanagh well knows, it only takes 1 to tango. So let me just say that.
It's hard, considering the video footage that they have. Now, it didn't look good from Ryan O'Donoghue, the little look down first, but they don't have the footage of the feet.
Right. So you think it'll be grand?
It's like trying to judge on Strictly but not only seeing the top half of things, There's a lot going on down under.
I can't deal with another Mayo for Sam Summer and inevitable failure. Hopefully they're gone the next day, says Shane, who I think is a Mayo fan, judging by that. I think he's a Mayo fan. I hope they're gone the next day.
Well, the good thing about this championship is it's not going to last very long anyways now. It'll all be done in a month, so.
Yeah. How do we feel about that? Like, as the weather gets good and the play gets good, everybody's gone.
I'm happy for the players. I think they finally get a summer break, summer holidays.
Well, they're going to straight back into club action, because we all know the club is where you start and club is where you end. You'll die a club man.
100%.
Roscommon are awful to watch. Not sure how far Cork will go, but delighted that awful brand of football didn't win, says D. Muller.
I don't know about that. I don't agree with that.
Come on, well, they're not here for your entertainment. They're here to win. This is
exactly.
Senior championship football. That's their job.
Roscommon have had a good year.
Oh, this art gallery is boring. Well, don't watch.
Exactly. Look, it was boring to watch Monaghan and Kildare at times, but if your team is involved, you're still excited. You're still on the edge of your seat.
Does everyone forget the hits the Mayo forwards have been getting all season? It's about time they gave some back, says Kevin Brannigan.
What about Aidan O'Shea in the tee? Eamon Fitz pointed this out in commentary. Did you see that? No. For McBreen's goal, Aidan O'Shea is passed the ball and lays it back off to McBreen for the assist, and he has Conor Gleeson's kicking tee in his hand, as full forwards tend to do. They will just run about with the tee in their hand, thinking if this ball goes wide or whatever, I'm going to disrupt. So they just walk around with the tee, and Aidan O'Shea has the tee in his hand, is passed the ball and has to throw the tee out of his hand to collect the ball and then pass it off for the goal. So shithousery almost didn't pay off for Aidan O'Shea.
A multi-talented man.
Yeah.
Good hands, you'd have to argue.
Good hands as a basketball player.
Turns out the basketball has worked well for him.
Yeah. It's all right.
Let him at it. Move into the red, and we'll start with Tipperary, I suppose, because Tipperary will be certainly disappointed with the manner of the defeat, won't they? Like 2-point defeat only to Galway. Here we go again. But like Galway with 18 wides, again, it's not a perfect Galway performance, but still to have the ability to beat Tipperary on a day like that, where you can certainly say you weren't at your best yourself. They had the first half no-show against Waterford, of course, Tipperary, and it was kind of similar to that. Their starting full forward line failed to score, and then the John McGrath goal, you think, gets them back to within a point, and they might push on from there, but I mean, it just wasn't to be.
When they're making that comeback the way they made the comeback, everybody in Galway and everybody around the country is like, flaky Galway, here we go again, this just happened last week. For them to come through that, you hope that they're somehow relieved from the burden of flakiness and now can go and do themselves justice against Limerick.
Then Tip conceding that goal straight from the throw in in the second half as well. You're just like, do they not hold on here? By the way, Conor Whelan, player hurler of the year if Galway win in All Ireland.
That's the biggest if we've had so far this morning, I think, Shane. Like the catch and the little handoff was probably one of the moments of the summer so far, and Tip never got to grips with him at all. These quarterfinals, some years they just come to life and you're there till 11 o'clock at night and both games go to extra time and you really feel there's a bit of momentum with the winners.
Limerick
felt very flat, but you'd have to think a couple of week break, Galway can regroup, 18 wides. They're not going to have 18 wides in an All-Ireland semi-final. Skehill was making the point on the hurling pod last week, like, you look at them the last 5-6 years, it's a one-score game that beats Galway when it comes down to it in these championship games. So they'll keep it a lot tighter, they'll improve. And Tip, like the Galway footballers, like they've lost so many players over the last year that these are the games where it catches you out. Yeah, they didn't perform. They didn't seem to have any energy. Manager was very honest afterwards that maybe they went that they should have gone all out against Offaly last week with sort of their first choice 15, and
they had to get game time into them. They had to get confidence into them.
If they lose and they don't, we're going players are too well rested. But yeah, it was a strange game because it's Galway Tip and there was such a bit of bite beforehand, and we kind of got a full understanding of how much these two hate each other. You felt it was going to come alive, and it was just a bit
dead. Right, come on, into the red.
Yeah, also red. Women's GAA, I guess, the news that they kind of broke last night. We saw the protests at the different games of the weekend, where teams would sit down after the national anthem and before throw-in, and you see a photo up on screen there of different teams engaging in their protest. But the Cork Senior Camogie and ladies football teams as well releasing a joint statement last night urging the LGFA and Camogie Association to avoid a clash of championship fixtures. So already there have been 2 fixture clashes involving the Cork ladies football and Camogie teams, including last weekend. So dual players, of course, have to make a decision. Cork have 4 dual players: Libby Coppinger, Hannon, Aoife Healy and Orla Cahalane, and they've had to make decisions. So you've got coming up this weekend the Cork footballers in the All-Ireland Senior Championship Group 4 against Tipperary. That's 2 o'clock in Clonakilty, and then the Camogie team are away to Clare and Cusack Park an hour later, so obviously impossible. Both teams, by the way, need to win to guarantee places in the knockout stages, so it's not like one of the games is less important than the other. Last Saturday, this is how ridiculous this is, by the way. So the Cork Camogie team played down in Páirc Uí Chaoimh at 3. The footballers were away to Galway and Salthill at 7:30. Libby Coppinger plays the full Camogie match. Then she rushes to Galway. She comes on as a second half sub. Aoife Healy plays for the Camogie team, and Hannah Looney chooses the football that weekend. Orla Cahalane was injured. But the fact that these players are having to make decisions in games of this magnitude is outrageous at this stage. No wonder there were protests the weekend, because the likes of this happening is just farcical. Yeah,
well, there's 5 or 6 different things going on here. I think that understandably the players are protesting about expenses, equal treatment, all of that. This is one of the reasons why it's going to end up taking too long to get a merger, amalgamation, whatever words they want to use together, because the Camogie are going to be going, well, we don't want to be in a position where the LGFA are telling us when we're going to have our games that their players should get priority, and the LGFA are going to be thinking the exact same thing. So rather than having a bit of common sense and sitting down at the start of the year and working out a programme and going, maybe, well, why don't we do Saturday and you do Sunday, or something like this that makes a little bit of sense, or we just do every second weekend, and you know what, we'll run our championship on a little bit later. Maybe we'll go into August and September when there's nothing else on, and we'll just take over the airwaves, and we'll be the front and centre every single weekend, and people will be following these games and excited by them. But instead we're going to put them on at the exact same time, so even the supporters who want to follow, who want to get behind it, can't do that either. So I think the starting point of this protest that is taking place, and the players weren't fully committal as to what was going to happen last week, when we saw those very powerful images of all the county jerseys on stage together. It was so reminiscent of Liberty Hall and the women's soccer team back in 2019. This is a GPA initiative. Why aren't the men taking part in it as well? Like, this is one organisation that has come together. So while there were ladies football games on TV over the weekend, the games that were front and centre on RTE over the weekend were the men's games in hurling and football. Why wasn't this same protest happening there to draw attention to this? Yeah. Considering the GPA is the one that is already unified, that is a one organisation. That has to be the next step for this.
Do the men not support them? What's the implication of this? Because if they don't support them, I don't know why. And if they do support them, what are they doing about it?
Also, sorry, the decision to play out the remainder of the championship under protest, I respect that, but also, would it not have made more of an impact just saying we're not playing? I know that's strong.
But then you're punishing yourself. I don't think. Yeah. I think these sort of protests
make a point though.
Well, you're making a point to you're shooting yourself in the foot.
So you're 25 years of age at the peak of your career, and I know you can make the argument.
Have the opportunity to play for a championship this year. Of course, you should.
Yeah, but you bite that bullet. You make the game much better for the generations after you, and for the following years as well.
You're trusting the organisation to act on the basis of shame, and that they won't.
Yeah, I think you're into a war there, that there's no guarantee on the other side. They say, all right, we will back down here.
Yeah, fair play. You made a good point there, and we're going to fix it by doing this and this. Yeah. That's not going to happen. It's the men's GAA that needs to fix this problem by coming across with equal money and equal funding and saying, yeah, we accept that as part of, as a token of our goodwill and good faith. ahead of the actual merger that's going to happen, here's the money that we will be paying out in the future anyway, because they have it. We know they have it. Like the GAA is making loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of money. And that's evidence. If you just look at their annual accounts, they can easily afford to pay the women the same mileage that they're paying the men. It's a really simple, straightforward thing for them to do to solve all this. But the men players need to back the women, as Nathan says.
Yeah, it's the time it's taken. Like, and the statement last week kind of hinted at that. They said, look, integration was made a priority at this meeting, and all membership of the three associations agreed, but that's over 18 months ago now.
Yeah.
So like, it's just going.
And look, these things are complicated. Integration can be complicated. There's lots of different systems in the background that can take time, but you can get ahead of it. And the showpiece occasions, make sure that they're like the Cork Camogie ladies football are something that should be celebrated. They should be front and centre of any new organisation. Instead, you're putting them head to head.
Right, that's this week Gillette Labs Performance Rankings.
OTB AM's Performance Rankings with Gillette.